Hey guys, Ethan here with Terminal.com, and today we're going to go over a brief introduction to learning the Linux command line. Now, this is going to be kind of a cool little video. It's designed to go along with the blog post that we wrote on this subject. I figured it might just be helpful if you could see the commands going in live and kind of get a live idea of what it's supposed to look like as things run. So we're going to just take it step by step. Not going to be in a huge hurry for this one. It's really for the beginners who are just looking to get a feel for what the command line is and how to use it. So I've linked to the blog post in the description to this video. Please work along with the blog post and make sure that you're working under a Terminal.com user account. And there are two good reasons for that. First, the entire blog post was written for some very specific snapshots that I've set up for this purpose. So you might be able to get an idea of what the commands do on your own, but if you really want to work along with the exercises, you have to use Terminal.com. Signing up is free, so don't worry about that. You get a $5 credit, which is way more than enough to go through this tutorial and practically every other tutorial we have on the site several times over. So you're not going to spend any money to do that. It's going to be the best investment in your Linux command line education that you could make. So sign up there because this is designed for that tool, but also because that tool is absolutely the best place to learn something like this. And the reason is that the command line is extremely powerful and can be very destructive if you're not careful, if you don't know what you're doing. Essentially, it allows you to tell the computer to do whatever it is that you want it to do. And if you enter a command, it won't necessarily ask you if you're sure you really want to do a specific thing. And so you can delete whole directories and eliminate crucial files and folders that your computer needs to run. So if you do this on your local computer, you can really screw up your local computer very easily. Whereas if you do it on terminal, you can screw everything up, and then all you got to do is just delete the terminal and spin up a new one. I mean, it's a no-risk learning environment, so I'd strongly recommend you work there. Okay, so with that, you can sign up with the link in the post, and then the next thing you need to do is just open up this special learning snapshot that we've created. And I'm just going to, it should open up in a new window. And we're just going to launch this. So this is a special snapshot. It's got a little tutorial inside of it. As far as size, don't worry about the size. Micro is fine. Auto pause is fine. We're really just looking for access to the computer. All right. So, welcome to the Terminal IDE. This is the tool that you will use to not only learn the command line, but as you get more comfortable with it, it's a fantastic development environment for virtually all of your computer-based projects. So we've got a file tree on the left-hand side that enables you to sift through the files and folders on this computer. And it's important to realize this is a virtual computer, so it exists in the cloud. It's totally self-contained. You can build it up just like any other computer, and you can delete it and it's as if it never existed. So you can navigate the files on this virtual machine. This is a text editor in the middle here where you can open files up and edit them. This is a internet browser, which you can use to test web pages and such. And this box up here, this is the command line. So if you are ever wondering when somebody says, open up a terminal or open up your command line, this is essentially what you'll be looking at. On your local machine, depending on what kind of machine you're using, this can vary. Microsoft has its version. I'm on a Mac, and on Mac it actually is called Terminal as well. You just open up Terminal, and that's what it looks like. So you can see we still have this. This is called a command prompt, and it's prompting you, basically saying what is it that you'd like to do. And all a command line is you just place the type in a command, and you hit enter, and the computer runs the command. So I'm going to get out of my local terminal and into the Terminal.com IDE terminal. And this is where we're going to do all of our work. So, yeah, first things first, basics. When you're thinking about the command line, all it really is another way of telling your computer to do something. That's it. So most of us are used to what's called the graphical user interface. It's exactly what you see in front of me right now, where I can click on folders and see thumbnails of files and those things. That's a graphical user interface, and it's just a more user-friendly version of the command line. But the command line is doing something very similar. You can navigate through your files and folders and tell your computer to do certain things, download software, add user accounts, change passwords. You can do all of that from the command line. It may seem a little bit unwieldy, but as you get used to it more and more, it actually becomes a very quick and easy way to work, because it centers all the work on your computer around one location. You're not checking through file trees and opening up multiple tabs. You're doing everything you need to do from a single place. But rather than get too theoretical about the whole thing, let's just dive right in. Okay, the first command we're going to run will give you an idea of what it means to work on the command line and what it is that it does. So I want you to click so that you can make sure you can type here, and type apt-get, and then the word update, and then hit enter. And you'll notice the computer just goes through and does the command on its own. So we're basically waiting on it to finish carrying out this command. And what it's doing is it's checking to make sure that we have access to all of the most recent software packages that we're working with. So this is a good command to run when you're starting up Terminal and you know you're going to be installing. It's also a great way of just kind of seeing visually what it is the command line does. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use the command line to install some software. And one of the reasons this is important is, well, there's two reasons. First of all, installing things is a pretty regular feature of tutorials around the web. A lot of times you'll be asked to get certain software packages, and I want you to know how to do that. But the other reason is that what we're going to use is we're going to install a text editor called Nano. So I told you a moment ago that this right here is a text editor, and it is. But sometimes, depending on where you're working, you won't have access to a text editor right alongside your command line. So if you were working on your local machine, you wouldn't have a text editor there. All you have is the command line. And so it's good to be able to install what's called a command line text editor. A command line text editor is exactly what it sounds like. It's a text editor that opens on the command line so that you can create or edit documents right from this window. There are a handful of command line text editors available. We're going to use Nano, and the way we're going to do it is by running apt-get install Nano. Now, this all might seem a little random, but it's not. The computer recognizes very specific commands. And so, apt-get, for example, is a Linux command that's used to access a group of packages that are available for free on the Linux operating system. And so it's got everything from web servers to databases to programs like the one we just downloaded, text editors. Basically anything, well, almost anything you could think to install on your computer is available there. And while apt-get is not the only way to get software onto your computer, there are other commands that you can use to get stuff from the web. If you ever run into a situation where you type a command and it says, you know, so-and-so, command not recognized or command not found, apt-get is a good place to start if you think you need to download something. So now we've got our text editor. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to learn to navigate a little bit. And the reason is because I remember myself when I first ran into the command line, it was totally disorienting. It felt like I was just kind of floating around in space somewhere. Expected to know how to access every file and directory on my computer, and I had no idea where I was, and that can be very overwhelming. So I want to show you that this actually has all the information that you'll need in order to navigate. You just need to learn how to read it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to take a look at is our command prompt, which is this line right here. And if I hit enter, you'll see it again. This is just a line that says, basically it says it's waiting for a command. But it can be broken down into a couple of different pieces. So this section before the @ symbol, where it says root, that's the username that we're currently operating under. You can think of this just like users on your personal computer, except for Linux has a special user called root. Now that comes standard on every Linux installation, and it's what's called a super user. So it's allowed to do anything it wants on the computer. We've actually got an article that'll teach you more about super users, excuse me, and how to control them and good best practices for beginners. But for now, we're just going to continue using root and understand it's just a very powerful user. Other users, like say the one you're logged into right now on your computer, wouldn't necessarily have the ability to do all the same things that root could do. The next section of this command prompt it comes after the @ symbol here. This identifies the computer that you're working on. And that's it. And then the colon here comes just before the directory listing. This hashtag, all that is it is a symbol used to signify the end of the command prompt, meaning that everything that comes after it is a command. Helps when you're going back to look through all the work that you've done. So those are the pieces that tell us where we are. But this little tilde thing here, that's probably not very helpful at this point. So let's run a quick command, and you'll get a better understanding of how you can use this portion of the command prompt to identify where you are. I want you to run the command cd space /. Now notice what happened. The tilde has changed and is now replaced with a /. And if we go over here to our file tree, you'll notice that there's a / here as well. This is the / directory, or the root directory. And so what this is saying is that we have now entered the root directory, and anything we do in here will be done inside of that file folder. So if we were to download software, or create files or what have you, unless we specified otherwise, it's all going to happen in this directory. So you've learned two things. First, this space between the colon and the hashtag represents the directory you're currently working in. And second, you've learned that you can navigate between directories using cd as a command. cd means change directory. Looking over here at our file tree, you'll see there's a /, and we're in the / directory. And then it says home, right? So this is just like the directory on your computer. You've navigated to the home directory, which is inside the / directory. And we want to now navigate there on our command line as well. So we're in the / directory, which means the only thing we have to type is cd home. And you can see now that before the hashtag is cd home. So we're in the home directory. Now let's try another command that's going to show, hopefully, in a kind of a tangible way, what it is that the command line does. We're going to use the command line to create a new directory, and it will have a visible effect on our screen because we are currently looking at our home folder. So our home folder has a handful of directories in it. Some of them we can see, some of them we can't. Currently, the one we can see is tutorials. Now, if we wanted to make a new directory, we could go home, new folder here, and create a folder this way. We'll call it folder 1, new folder. And you see folder 1 has just been added. But because we are currently in the home directory on our command line, we can actually do this right from here as well with the mkdir, or make directory command. So you type mkdir followed by the name of the directory you'd like to create. In this case, following along with the tutorial, we're going to call it success. And just like that, you can see our success directory has just been made. Congratulations, you've just created your first directory using the command line, and I hope that gives you a little bit of a better idea of what it is the command line does and how it can interface with the file system that you're used to looking at. Now, what happens if we want to delete one of these directories? Well, Linux has a pretty simple command for deleting. It's the rm command. And so I want you to just type rm followed by the name of the directory you'd like to eliminate. And you'll notice something interesting happens. It says right there, cannot remove, success is a directory. So this is an example of the computer kind of keeping you in check. It's got this safety protocol in place so that it's not easy to just remove directories. Like I said, that could be very destructive. And so this is a good time to transfer and start talking about the next level of commands, which are flags. And flags are basically little additions that you type into a command which extend the usefulness or the capability of a command. So in this case, I want you to type rm dash lowercase r and then success, or the name of the directory you want to remove. And hit enter again, and this time you'll see, no problem, it removes the directory. So that's a little example of how flags can be used to extend the capabilities of a command. Now, there are lots of flags, and I'm not going to get into trying to teach them all here because, to be completely honest, the best way to learn them is to just dive in and work along with a couple of tutorials. You'll get an idea for what they do, and you don't need to know the ones that you don't need to use. So just go ahead, get some tutorials, and use them, and you'll pick up the ones that you need through trial and error. I think that's the best way to learn. But I will show you another one that is very useful on the command line for almost anything that you're doing. We're going to run a command. We're still in the home directory. And we're going to run a command called ls and just run it. What that stands for, it just lists the contents of a directory. And you'll see here that we can see folder 1 and tutorials. And this can be a very useful command if we're trying to navigate and ensure that we're in the right spot. But it comes with a bit of a problem, and that's that it doesn't list all the directories and all the files that exist in a given folder. There's a certain type of file and folder that you're going to begin working with. They're called dot files. Dot files are files that begin with a dot, and they're used for administrative purposes, so they're not usually listed visibly in like a file tree. But the command line is an administrative tool, and so as you begin working with it more and more, you're going to see and need to use these dot files. So you're going to need to know when you have them and how to access them. Now, I've created a hidden directory inside the home directory, and we're going to use a flag in order to seek it out. So ls, that's the same list command, followed by A, and that stands for all, and hit enter. And now you can see that this lists quite a bit more. We've got our folder 1 and tutorials, but we've also got other administrative directories, and then this one which I created, which is called hidden. Now it's worth noting that you don't have to name a hidden file hidden in order for it to not appear. It just has to begin with a dot. Now we're going to transfer into this hidden file, and you'll see again, everything before the hashtag is used to show you which directory you're in. Now, what happens if we want to list the files that are inside of this hidden directory? It's easy. All we do is we hit ls, and you'll see that it will just print out the files that are listed here. And you can even run lsa, and you'll see everything. So if there were any dot files in here, they would be listed as well. So as you know, you can always use LSA if you like. In fact, it's a good habit to get into just using the A flag when you're listing directories and files, because that way you don't miss anything. So we've got this one find me file, and we'll get to that in a minute, but first we want to create a file. And in order to do that, we're going to use the software that we downloaded, this Nano command line editor. Now, the way you use Nano can either create a file or it can open and edit an existing file. And the way you do both is the same. You just type nano, which is the command, followed by the name of the file that you want to either create or edit. So if, say we want to create a new file, and in the tutorial it's called found you, you'll notice there is no file in this directory called found you. So what Nano is going to do is it's just going to create the file, and we can just type whatever we want in here, and then we'll go ahead and save and close it. Now you'll see there are some options written across the bottom here. This is how you control Nano. So inside of your Word editor, you'd be used to having a file save menu, or Control X to cut text or what have you. In Nano, we also have commands, and they are used for telling the computer when we'd like to exit Nano and when we'd like to save documents and such. And so in this case, we're going to run a Control X for exit. It'll ask us, do we want to save the modified document? Do capital Y, which is for yes. And then it's going to ask you, is this the correct file name to write to? And if you just hit enter, it'll go ahead and write. And then we can list all the files in this directory, and you'll see that we've now got our new directory listed. Now if we wanted to open that file again, all we'd have to type is nano found you, and you'll see right there we can edit as we please. Control X to exit, and if you haven't made any changes, it's not going to bother you with saving. But sometimes we don't want to open and edit a file. Sometimes we just want to read the contents. This can be important when you're setting up SSH keys, or if you're just checking to make sure that a save took properly. And so there's another command that you can use to just view the contents of a file, and that's cat, C-A-T, just like the pet. So cat, and then the name of the file will get you the file contents printed to the screen. So if you run cat found you, you'll see we get success. If you run cat find me, which is the other file that I created here for you, you should see this printout, which basically says, congratulations, you're doing a great job. And of course, you are doing a great job. If you've gotten this far, you've got 90% of the skills you need to follow just about any tutorial on the web. Really, the biggest part of learning how to do this is just experience. I mean, you can get in and go to our blog and just start following our tutorials. There are a couple of suggestions of where you might want to go in the blog that we wrote on this subject towards the bottom. So ones that I would suggest here would be our tips for superheroes and super users. That will teach you how to lock down this terminal so that you're not going to damage anything and you don't destroy it. The other one would be Ubuntu First Steps, which takes you through and lists out a whole bunch of very important tutorials, which are great for learning the command line, but also great information if you're setting this up as an actual server for the long run. A lot of places you can go from here, but you've got the basic tools you need. Biggest thing was learning how to run a command and some of the most basic commands. Listing your files, navigating, creating files, editing documents. You know how to do all that now, and so you're ready to go. Guys, I hope this was helpful. Please feel free to comment. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to see. If you have additional questions, we can definitely do a part 2 on this. We need your feedback. So tweet at us at Terminal Cloud, or you can get us here on YouTube. Just comment on this video. Thanks for taking the time to check this out, and until next time, get out there and make something awesome.